Welcome to Tokyosaurus. So what's up in Japan? Have you ever wondered how close your own gaming tastes are to that of an average Japanese gamer? If so, then you're at the right place. So the fiscal year just ended for Japan, and here we are with the final numbers for the top 10 games sold in Japan for the year 2017 to 2018, starting from last April till now. I don't think it's a surprise anymore, but the console market grew again this year for the second year in a row, mostly thanks to the Nintendo Switch, selling over 4 million units in Japan alone. But obviously, with the release of huge titles like Monster Hunter World, this list isn't going to be purely Nintendo. So let's take a look at the top 10 games sold in Japan for the past year to see what the average Japanese gamer has in their gaming library for the last year and maybe some games you might have missed out on. So starting at number 10, we have Monster Hunter Double Cross for the 3DS. Although this game was released in the previous fiscal year and sold over 1.6 million units, pretty close to its initial release date, Monster Hunter Double Cross still managed to sell over 400,000 units for the 3DS this year. And this doesn't even count the Nintendo Switch port that was released later in 2017. Monster Hunter's longevity per game is probably something to keep in mind when we take a look at Monster Hunter World's numbers a little later on. Monster Hunter Double Cross was not localized for the West, unfortunately, and it doesn't look like it's gonna happen as they probably want people to be playing World instead. So if you want to play this, you're gonna have to import it somehow. At number 9, we have Yokai Watch Busters 2 for the 3DS at 490,000 copies sold. The main Yokai Watch series is sort of on a break after many years of pretty frequent updates to the main series, but with a spin-off being able to break into the top 10 games sold in Japan proves just how popular the franchise remains to be, and probably a good sign for Yokai Watch fans as we are all still patiently waiting for Yokai Watch 4. At number 8, we have Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild for the Nintendo Switch. Now, Breath of the Wild was also released before this fiscal year started, but its total lifetime sales in Japan only amounted to about 870,000 compared to its 3.2 million sold in North America and 2 million copies sold in Europe. Zelda remains to be not as popular in Japan even with this new release, but still very impressive numbers nonetheless. I bought a Switch on release just to play this game, and I have to say Breath of the Wild alone was worth getting the console for. At number 7, we have the highly anticipated Dragon Quest XI for the PS4 with 1.3 million units sold, which was also recently announced for Western release in September 2018. I've been waiting for this game for a long time now, and I almost imported the Japanese version, but thankfully I didn't, and now there is an official confirmation for this game to come over to the West. It's a classic JRPG with very classic JRPG music, so it might not be for everyone, but do check it out as it will be one of the best JRPGs in 2018 to play. At number 6, we have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for the Nintendo Switch, selling 1.6 million copies in Japan this year. This number will only continue to rise year after year as more people buy a Nintendo Switch, and I wouldn't be surprised if Mario Kart Deluxe 8 stays on the top selling list year after year as it does somehow every single year even if the game has been released years ago. This is one of those games that never seem to get old no matter how much you play it, so if you have a Switch and you don't have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I definitely suggest giving it a try. At number 5, we have Super Mario Odyssey for the Nintendo Switch, also at 1.6 million units sold. Probably one of the best Super Mario games ever released. This game will probably also be like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, where it continues to sell years after release as more people get the Nintendo Switch. I didn't love all the 2D Super Mario games, but this one really changed my perspective on Super Mario, and I had a blast going through all the different colorful stages. At number 4, we have Dragon Quest XI again, but for the 3DS this time. So somehow, the 3DS version of Dragon Quest XI outsold the PS4 one, with 1.7 million units sold compared to the PS4's 1.3 million units sold. But surprisingly, the Western release is only going to be for the PS4 and the PC, and not for the 3DS. I guess they didn't want to pour more resources into localizing the 3DS version when Dragon Quest isn't exactly winning popularity contests here in the West. But either way, having a 3DS game still breaking top 10 is pretty amazing, seeing how the 3DS is on its last legs. At number 3, we have Monster Hunter World for the PS4 at 1.9 million copies sold. Now keep in mind, as we mentioned before, the fiscal year just ended and Monster Hunter World was just released over 2 months ago. So this game is definitely on its way to sell well over 2 million copies in Japan for its lifetime sales. Monster Hunter World has already sold over 7.5 million copies in the world, making it Capcom's best-selling game ever at the beginning of March. And Capcom also said that its priority is to improve its lifetime unit sales, which means their priority will be to add additional content to the game. So I wouldn't be too surprised if we get to see a big DLC drop sometime in the future with G-Rank or maybe a new map with completely new monsters. At number 2, beating Monster Hunter World but not for long, we have Splatoon 2 for the Nintendo Switch at 2.1 million copies sold. Splatoon 2 is one of those few Nintendo games that sold way better in Japan than the rest of the world. North America sold about 1.2 million and Europe about 1 million. So you can tell Japan really likes its Splatoon. And finally, beating everybody again as usual, we have Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon for the 3DS at almost 2.2 million copies sold. Even though it was a sequel / alternate universe / Game of the Year edition for the Sun and Moon games, released the previous year in 2016, somehow everybody still gobbled it up and it manages to top every other new game released for 2017 to 2018. Pretty impressive, and you can just imagine how much the upcoming Pokemon game on the Nintendo Switch would sell if Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon alone managed to beat out all its competitors last year. Although, to be fair, Ultra Sun and Moon did add quite a bit of content to the original games, so I guess they did deserve their success. Anyways, that is it for the top 10 games sold in Japan for 2017 to 2018. What do you think of this list, and if you played any of these games, which one is your favorite for this year? As usual, I left a poll for you guys up there, and also let me know down in the comments below. Don't forget to drop a thumbs up before you leave, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications if you want to be updated with the latest that's going on in Japan, and I'll see you guys in the next one.